SMS Janil.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I thank members Professor Walter Thisera, Mr. Henry Quek and Mr. Darrell David for their questions and suggestions. Our land transport system is becoming more complex and commuters have increasingly diverse travel needs and preferences. We have land limitations and fiscal constraints. We need to make difficult trade-offs in deciding how to plan and develop our land transport network. I agree with Professor Thisera that the government needs to engage the public when planning and developing our land transport system, to develop public support and to ensure the land transport system continues to be designed with commuters in mind. This is why we have embarked on an extensive public consultation exercise as part of developing the Land Transport Master Plan for 2040. Over the last 2 months, many Singaporeans have shared their concerns and aspirations. Some have participated in our focus group discussions, and LTA is gaining valuable feedback through this process. LTA is also taking the opportunity to share its planning considerations and trade-offs. Please continue to come forward and participate through the LTMP consultation process so that together, through partnership, we do achieve the best possible outcomes. Mr. Henry Quek suggested that LTA communicate the true cost of providing MRT services so that citizens understand the financial trade-offs. We're not able to issue receipts for each ride, so we use other ways to communicate the costs and subsidies. Over the next 5 years, government is subsidizing $5 billion for bus services, $4 billion for the renewal of rail operating assets, and $20 billion to expand our rail infrastructure. We will continue to communicate to commuters the cost of providing public transport services. Mr. Henry Quek and Mr. Darrell David asked about the differences between the Rail Infrastructure Fund and the Railway Sinking Fund, the RIF and the RSF. The Railway Sinking Fund is not permitted by Section 13A of the Land Transport Authority of Singapore Act to fund the demolition and replacement of rail infrastructure, such as tracks and tunnels. Instead, the RSF, the Railway Sinking Fund, is to be used to acquire operating assets such as trains and signalling systems to replace or upgrade aging ones for existing rail lines. On the other hand, the Rail Infrastructure Fund is by this bill to be used to expand and renew our domestic rail infrastructure such as tracks and tunnels, and this includes associated works and investments. Beyond the injection of $5 billion in FY 2018, the RIF can be topped up in future years when the fiscal position allows. LTA integrates our transport plan closely with the land use plan and builds new rail lines only when there is a strong use case. This good planning and financial principle doesn't change with the introduction of the RIF. The RIF simply provides the government with the flexibility to save up when our fiscal position allows in the anticipation of lumpy capital rail investments in the future. Mr. Henry Quek and Mr. Darrell David also asked how LTA determines when to replace and upgrade key assets and systems in a timely manner. LTA determines the replacement schedule of our rail assets based on the asset design life and the specific asset's actual condition. This is to take into account variance in lifespan under Singapore's operating environment, as Mr. Quek correctly noted. Where necessary, LTA also engages engineering experts to provide third-party opinions. Going forward, LTA is developing the Rail Enterprise Asset Management System, which will integrate asset information and maintenance records across the different systems so that the health of the various operating assets can be monitored holistically over their respective life cycles. The system will be equipped with data analytic capabilities to monitor asset performance and identify potential faults before they occur, so that these assets can be repaired or renewed preemptively. This shift towards data-driven predictive maintenance and asset renewal will enable sustained rail reliability while optimizing overall life cycle costs. Mr. Darrell David asked whether SMRT and LTA have sufficient maintenance capacity to achieve high rail reliability. Professor Walter Thisera made some remarks and asked some questions about human capital development. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I note that these questions do not relate to the contents of this bill, but I'll take the opportunity to make a few short remarks. I want to assure the House that MOT, LTA and our rail operators are working hard to raise rail reliability. SMRT has already raised its maintenance headcount by more than 700, has been noted by Professor Thisera, since its transition to the new rail financing framework. And Professor Thisera also correctly noted it takes time to train and groom our engineers. To attract, develop and retain skilled engineers and technicians for the land transport sector, we are professionalizing the rail engineering vocation and have seeded a $12.5 million public transport manpower development fund to drive manpower development initiatives. We are also partnering our institutes of higher learning and centralized academy, such as the Singapore Rail Academy, to roll out workforce development programs. But maintenance capability is not only about manpower. It is also about giving our engineers and technicians sufficient engineering hours to carry out these maintenance and asset renewal works. This is why we introduced early closures and late openings last December. These efforts are starting to pay off. We have turned the corner. Last year, the mean kilometers before failure, the MKBF, for our MRT network was 181,000 train kilometers. This has tripled to 661,000 train kilometers for the first 3 quarters of this year. This is not just a numbers game. The commuters have felt the improvement, and I thank Mr. Henry Quek for his comments. His residents have given him good feedback about the reliability of the North-South line. As the new signaling system for the East-West line stabilizes, residents living in the East and West will also begin to enjoy better rail reliability. Instead of a complex expenditure performance ratio, the Minister for Transport has laid out a very clear objective target for rail reliability: to achieve 1 million mean kilometers before failure, MKBF, for the MRT network by 2020 and sustain it at that level going forward. This is a bold target, and very few metro systems around the world have consistently achieved this. MOT, LTA and our operators will continue to work hard to bring commuters safe, reliable and affordable public transport services. Professor Thassera observed that we need a framework that allows our rail operators to be financially sustainable. This is so that they can continue to attract engineers to join the industry and to invest to sustain high rail reliability. LTA has just completed transitioning all rail lines to the new rail financing framework this year, and under this model, government co-shares the fare revenue risk with the operators. This is a big step towards building the financial sustainability that Professor Thassera spoke about. We will need to evolve our financing model to continue to adapt to the changing operating environment. The government will continue to review our financing framework periodically to ensure the public transport system continues to serve us well. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the idea to build an MRT network was discussed in 1967, just 2 years after Singapore became independent. This was contentious at the time. It would be one of the most expensive infrastructure projects for our young nation. After 15 years of careful study, the government committed in 1982 to build the North-South and East-West lines at a price of $5 billion, close to 15% of Singapore's GDP at that time. It was a difficult decision, but the right one. When these lines started operations in 1987, it opened up new possibilities for Singaporeans to live, work and play. We have since expanded the rail network considerably. By 2030, with the addition of the Jurong Regional Line and the Cross Island Line, we will have a total of 8 MRT lines. This improved connectivity brought about by our rail network has allowed us to develop new economic centers and key facilities across our island. The implementation and success of Punggol Digital District, Changi Business Park, Changi Airport, Tuas Industrial Estate and Jurong Lake District would not be possible without the enhanced connectivity brought about by the rail network. The rail system is an economic project and a social leveler. As Mr. Darrell David pointed out, Singaporeans depend on the MRT and LRT. 3.5 million trips made on the rail network every day, bringing Singaporeans to school, to work and back home. Today, this rail network has grown to become the backbone of our public transport system. Because of the foresight of the previous generation, our economic opportunities have expanded and our island home is now more connected. In setting up the Rail Infrastructure Fund, we are following in their footsteps and planning for the future of the next generation. With that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of the opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. Ayes have it.
The Land Transport Authority of Singapore Amendment Bill.
Minister of State, Senior Minister of State. Committee stage what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill.
The question is that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill. As many as are of their opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that clauses 1 to 7 stand part of the bill. As many as are of their opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Bill to be reported. Minister for Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill has been considered in committee and agreed to without amendment.
Third reading what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that the bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. As many as are of their opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
The Land Transport Authority of Singapore Amendment Bill.
Order. I propose to take a break now. I suspend the sitting and will take the chair again at 3:30. Order, order.